All right, fellas, video of the day. Figured I want to hit on some what's called nutrient density. So right now we're in this week where we're only eating meat, only taking in salt, only taking in water. We're dealing with a bunch of men here, so more than likely this isn't going to be a problem. But some of you might be thinking, am I really getting in all of the nutrients I need if I'm not eating vegetables and fruits and whole grains and all the stuff that's typically recommended to get in your diet? So I wanted to hit on that just to hopefully, again, the more information we have, the more knowledge we have, it should continue motivating us, knowing that we're doing the right thing, knowing that we're eating in a way, at least as best as we have understood the way God would want us to eat. And that just kind of points me back to the sermon I did a couple weeks ago where I talked about how God gave us the plants and the trees for food, right? And that food, that word for food meant nourishment. So why do we care about nutrients? Well, that's what nourishment is. It's giving your body the nutrients that it needs to stay healthy, to build, to grow, to rebuild, and to grow, and all the things that we need to stay healthy. So we should be looking at every food that we eat and seeing, is this a nutrient-dense food, right? Is this what's actually going to give me the nutrients I need to be able to stay healthy? Of course, we're also looking at things to see, is this something I'm going to enjoy? Which is absolutely fine, right? That's why God gave us creativity, right? To put, hopefully, as much as possible, real foods together in a way that tastes amazing. We're not really experiencing much of that this week, but as we add things in over the course of the 6 weeks, we're going to get more and more of that. But you can see how that can go down the wrong path, right? That's a good thing, putting things together to make something like ice cream, right? You put dairy together, put a little bit of some sugar in there or some other sweetener, some eggs, real food, and you have something that tastes really, really good, right? That's a good use of the cultural mandate. But then you throw in all kind of other crap in there, a bunch of other chemicals and stuff, and you see how humans, as fallen, finite human beings, we take it too far much of the time, and we ruin things. So we've done that to the point in our country where 36% of our diet is sugar, processed sugar, and seed oils. And these are the two of the things that are the lowest from a nutrient density perspective. They basically have no nutrients in them. All they are is calories. So what do I mean by nutrient density? Well, from a conventional perspective, this is how, again, modern medicine would look at it. This is how, if you went to a dietitian or a typical nutritionist, how they would look at it, is it's high in nutrients and it's low in calories, right? So this would be their list. What are the things that are highest in nutrients and what are the things that are lowest in calories? Well, veggies would be on the top of their list. This is why, again, it's always recommended that you get your however many servings of fruits and vegetables. Vegetables are the highest. Fruits would be second. Whole grains on their list would be third. Then legumes, things like beans, nuts and seeds. All the way down here, lean meats. So not even the fatty cuts of meats like the ribeye, like they had, right, in that Nehemiah passage that I mentioned where they were celebrating coming back from being in exile, and they were celebrating their renewed relationship with God. More than likely they ate something like a ribeye. Well, that's not even on this list. And then fat-free dairy, so not even full fat dairy is on this list. This is what they're saying is high nutrient, low calorie. So from their conventional perspective, has high nutrient density. So nutrient density is what we want, but we don't really care about the conventional perspective. If you know me, and Jarek would be in alignment with this too, most of the time conventional perspective sucks. So I'm going to come up with a dietary perspective, and this isn't just my opinion, this is also based off of research, and I can show you that research if you would like, but this would be that list. High nutrient density, or high nutrients, and the calories don't really matter, right? So we would be fine taking in something that's high in caloric value as long as it has a lot of nutrients. So if you look at this list now, organ meats would be on the top of that list. After you watch this video, somebody put in the chat, on the Signal chat, if they've had any sort of organ meats yet. I haven't either. I'm actually going to do some mixing up. I have a bunch of liver in my freezer. I'm going to ground it up, mix it with some ground beef, and start having some of that probably starting next week. But organ meats are off the charts, by far the highest nutrient dense food on the planet. All this stuff, so like herbs and spices here are second. They don't even come close to organ meats. But herbs and spices are second. Nuts and seeds, cacao, something we're going to have next week, is there. Then you get to fish and seafood, probably something else, because we can just use salt this week is something else we're not eating. And then we got our beef, right? Then we got what probably most people are eating right now, lamb, wild games on after that. Then we get all the way down here to raw veggie, is in terms of nutrient density when we come to the correct list instead of this list over here, eggs and dairy here at the bottom. So chicken's not even really on that list. Pork was on here somewhere, I just didn't list all of them. What do I mean by nutrient density? What they're looking at is they're looking at something called micronutrients. So you got two types of nutrients: macro, this is fat, protein, carbohydrates, you're probably familiar with that, and then micronutrients, right? Sodium, potassium, calcium, magnesium, choline, B vitamins, the fat soluble vitamins, A, D, E, and K, iron, zinc. All of these micronutrients are important. So what they looked at is micronutrients and what are called essential amino acids in food. So when you have essential amino acids, anything that has essential in front of it, that means your body can't make it on its own. So we have to take it in our diet. So there's essential amino acids, and then there's also essential fatty acids like EPA and DHA, omega-3 fatty acids, omega-6 fatty acids, if you're familiar with that. So that's how they measure this nutrient density. So these foods, according to their list, has the most micronutrients, has the most essential amino acids, but the lowest caloric value. On our list, also most micronutrients, most essential amino acids, but we don't really care about the calories, again, because we can figure that out in terms of how much calories we're actually eating, and getting your protein content, like Jarek's already talked about, getting your protein intake down, dialed in, is the most important, and getting your micronutrient intake is also most important. So that's why we want to be eating these meats. Now we're going to add this stuff in, right? We're going to be adding nuts and seeds, and by the end, we're going to add raw veggies. Let me just say something really quick about nuts and seeds. Why we're waiting until the end? I'll get into this more probably when we get there, but they also have things that are called anti-nutrients, meaning that although they do have a lot of micronutrients in them, because of other stuff that plants give off, it's difficult for us to absorb the actual nutrition that's in them. So they're just measuring what's in them, not necessarily what we're able to take in. And there's more to this whole thing, and I'll talk about it more as we go, but I just wanted to give you this just to hopefully give you some motivation that yes, this isn't just punishment for you guys that we're avoiding all these other foods. This is telling you we wanted to start with meat because it's very anti-inflammatory for most people. It doesn't spike insulin a lot, so we're being insulin friendly with the meat, but it's also the most nutrient dense foods that we can actually eat in terms of getting the most micronutrients, the most essential fatty acids, of course, and the most protein so the essential fatty acids making up the protein. That's what's going to really nourish our body, which is what God's called us to do. In Genesis 9, he gave us all things that move to eat. So he's given us meat to eat to nourish our bodies well. Hopefully you are also enjoying some of it this week. But yeah, that's kind of the thought behind why we're okay with just eating meat. Now, our eventual diet is going to include both plants and animal products. That's the way we believe that God created us to do. But we are not being deficient in any sort of nutrients by doing this. We're not going to end up with any sort of nutrient deficiency diseases this week because of what we're eating. We are actually eating meats that are packed full of the nutrients that our bodies need. So hopefully that was helpful. If you got questions on any of it, let me know.